Hello everybody, today's Tuesday, December 10th. Going to be going over things like we've talked about yesterday in class. I was preparing you for my absence today. Going to be a typical day in math class. We need out on our desk our notes packet. We're going to be working on page 3 as we discussed. Hopefully you've turned in assignment 60. We are about to grade that there. If you have not done that, please do that right now. Make sure you have your calculator at your seat, as we will be using that, and a pencil. Make sure your phones are also parked in the cell phone parking lot, so that you are not being distracted. If you finish early, you can continue working on this week's IXLs. Remember, that's the last IXLs of the 2024 portion of the school year. Tonight's assignment will be assignment 61. Now, one thing that will happen, I'll get lots of kids who will try to do tonight's assignment like last night's assignment, and you want to make sure that tonight when you're doing it, you're working with the percent equations, and we'll be talking about that very shortly. You'll see what I'm referencing there as we get into notes. So let's begin. Let's look at these. Just so you know, this is the answer key for the worksheet that was supposed to be copied, and again, you got a previous version. Same exact problems, but your numbers will be off. I think yours says like 15, 16 instead of 5 and 6. But the problems are the same, so if you ignore those, I think you should be fine. For the first 40, we're supposed to write it as a decimal and a percent. Looking at number 1, it's out of 100, so that's 42% and 0.42. Number 2 is out of 1,000, so I would have divided that with my calculator, which would have given me 0.007. And then again, you still do D to P. If you make them all decimals first, it's right up here. You would go 2 to the right because you're multiplying by 100. Number 13 would be 144.4. It is a repeating decimal. 144.4%. And 4166 is an ugly decimal here. It is a repeating decimal. 62% if you round it off. 62.12%. Using the percent proportion, that means all of the next problems you should have set up using this template. Right? And you put your percent here, you put your amount, and you put your total. So in each one of these, you should have set up the proportion. You need to have the related equation. This is what you get with your cross products on your paper. You cannot just have this in an answer. You need to show me your equation, show me what you calculate. I don't mind letting you use a calculator, but you've got to show me where you've got that. So here you've got 14 out of 56. 14 is the parts. 56 is your total. So it goes across from 100. 14 is the number, and it goes across from the percent. We're missing a percent sign. That's why P is what's missing here. And you're going to do your cross products. 25%. Notice, if it says what percent, your answer needs a percent sign. If you look at numbers 7 and 8, or on your paper, I'm not sure what numbers they are, but the next two, they have percent signs in their problems, so you're not going to have a percent sign in your answer. I love whoever made this key. I can't take credit for making this key, but one of the things that might help you is to mark what each thing is before you set up the proportion. This is obviously P. It's got the percent sign. Out of what? Of is connected to what? So that means W is what's missing. And is connected to the A value. 9 is the part you have. So this proportion would be 9 over W, because W is missing. 25 over X. My cross products would give me 900 equals 25W. And if you put an X here, that's fine. A is what percent of what number? A is 9% of what number? So again, 36 is what I have. I'm looking for the total out of how much? 4,000 is my final value there. Again, looking at number 9, I've got a P out of 124. That's W is what number? I'm trying to find what amount I have. A is what's missing. Again, I probably would have had X there, but using A, if that helps you, maybe I'll go to that in class in the future. So you would have 75 times 124 on your calculator, 100x, 93. Looking at 10, again, you have a percentage. You have the total. Is what number? Looking for A here. 100A gets you 9,900. Divide by this. This has to be on your paper. Show your work. Looking at number 11, again, I'm missing a percent sign. That means P is missing. So 0.5 out of 20 is what percent out of 100? You should be at 2.5. Got to have a percent sign on that answer. Should only have a percent sign on answers 11 and whatever these were up here, 5 and 6, although I know that's not what they are. I think it was 15 and 16, but I could be wrong. And then 12, you have a percent. You have the part, you're figuring out the total number, and that would be out of 40. This is where we're headed, to just not being able to do these simple sentences to do real world problems. You are assigned 32 math problems. I haven't given you 32 math problems to do in a while, but that would be W. You complete 75%. That's P. How many exercises do you have left to do? Now, this one's a little tricky, right? You get A over 32, 75 over 100. This is what you have done. So if you left your answer as 24, you didn't read the question. 24 is what you've done because you've done 75%. 8 would be left. If you've completed 75, you have to do 25. So you could have set this up with 25 out of 100 is how much out of 32? And that answer would have been exactly to 8. So you could subtract your percents or you could subtract your numbers. Either would leave you to your correct answer. Let's turn to page 3. There's some of those noises in the PowerPoint that we need there. Page 3 in your orange packets. If you need to pause the video and let everybody get their stuff, that's fine. Take your time. We're going to start page 3 by referencing page 2 from yesterday. Yesterday we learned the percent proportion, and we solved this proportion by taking 100 times A equals P times W. Okay? We're going to use that proportion, and instead of starting with a proportion, we're going to start with an equation. Okay, so looking at this, just a reminder of what all of these things are. They're not changing today when we go to the percent equation. We're going to use A, we're going to use P, we're going to use W, and they mean the same things. A is your portion, W is the whole amount, P stands for the percent you have. The difference in the percent equation is we're not going to be using a fraction. We're going to be using a decimal value. Okay, and that leads us to our percent equation. Says at the top, you must memorize this equation. The equation is A is and of, oh, it's not written in here. I need to write it in here. Oh no, there we go. A equals P times W. Okay, so in your notes there, let's fill in what each of these mean. A is still the amount, or the part. Is means equals. It's whatever's by the equal sign. Of means times. Here's the new piece that you need to put a big star by. P means percent, but instead of using it as a fraction like we did yesterday in proportions, we're going to use it as a decimal. So the first thing you've got to do is remember D to P. You're going to be going backwards 2 places, so you got to move to left. And then your whole number. I'm going to give everybody a second to write that down, and I'm going to show you how to put this in action. If you remember us talking in class yesterday, I said, hey, I'm going to show you another tool. You're going to look at your homework tonight and be like, I can just do all these with a proportion. And my answer to that would be yes, you could. You can do proportion or equation. But as we said in class yesterday, I need you to learn both and practice with both, and then you can pick your favorite. If your favorite is proportion, do proportion. If your favorite is equation, do equation. Okay? Let's look at example number 1. 54 is 20% of what number? Okay. Identify the is, remember that's the A, and the of, that's the W. Write an equal sign and a dot. All right. 54, that is going to be, 54 is, this is going to be the A value. This is going to be my P value, because that's a percentage, of what number? I am missing that. So if I translate this into this equation, A equals P times W, I plug in what I have, just like we did yesterday. That's going to be 54 equals 0.20, that's the new trick, times W. Right? The new trick is this P has to be turned into a decimal. You're not going to write 20 in there. If you write 20 in there, you're going to be off by decimal places. Then once I have that, so we identified, we changed our percent to a decimal, we wrote the equation, and then you're going to solve the inverse equation. You're going to solve the equation with inverse operation. You're either going to be multiplying or dividing in all of these problems today. Since this is 0.2 times W, I'm going to divide both sides by 0.2. You're going to take on your calculator 54 divided by 0.2, and W equals 270. The number that you're finding there is the whole. That's what's missing. Find the whole. Let's go to number 2. Find 25% of 75. So if I start plugging in, I know this is P. I don't see is in my equation. Of is times, and it's out of 75. Find would mean this is A, what I'm missing. So A equals PW. I don't know A. P is 25%. I got to write it as a decimal, 0.25. Remember, you got to move it over to 75. And then solve using the inverse operation or simplifying. In this equation, I don't have to undo anything. I have 0.25 times 75. So on my calculator, 0.25 times 75, I don't have to divide here. A is 18.75. I don't have to divide because A is already by itself. You were finding the amount. Try number 3 now. Stop the video. Everybody try number 3 by yourself, and then you can play the video and see if you were correct. If you weren't correct, make sure you're making changes there. I really like the strategy of labeling all the items in the words, and then when I write my equation and I plug things in, I just have to pull them down. 0.56 times W equals 42. This is an equation you've got to divide. I hope you can see the difference between this equation where the variable was already by itself and this equation where the variable is not by itself, so I have to do inverse operations, dividing both sides by 0.56. 42 divided by 0.56 is W equals 75. If you're finding W, that means you are finding the whole. As we move on to 4, 21 is what percent of 168? Hopefully we all realize what's missing here is P. 21 is, that means A is what percent of, that's times W. So you are going to have A equals PW. 21 equals P times 168. We identified, we wrote the equation. Time to solve the equation. To solve this equation, you've got to get P by itself with inverse operations. 21 divided by 168 is 0.125 equals P. Now note, it's in red, really important. Put a star by it. When you have to find the percent, this is a decimal. You must change it to a percent. You cannot just put a percent sign on that. That is the decimal form, which is why we spent all that time talking about what do you got to do to get it to a percent. Well, again, D2P, you're going from a decimal to a percent. 2 to the right because you're multiplying by 112.5%. Number 5 is much like number 4. Give number 5 a try and pause the video, and then you can restart it when you are finished. So when I write my equation, A equals PW, get used to saying that over and over and over. I don't know what P is. I know W is 656. And I know that A is 246. Solving this equation would leave me with 246 divided by 656, which would leave me with P equals 0.375. Remember, don't put a percent sign on it. Do not put your percent sign till you've moved it 2 to the right, 37.5%. Okay, you're basically doing the exact same problems we did yesterday. I could have given you the exact same set of problems as you had yesterday's worksheet. Just instead of saying solve it with a proportion, solve it with the equation. Now that'd get kind of boring. You'd be like, I already solved these. But it doesn't matter what the problem looks like. Either tool would work. And we'll look at that in some more detail tomorrow. Today's assignment is assignment 61. The sub, now that you're done with the notes, will distribute this. Again, you're going to write the equation. So if you turn it in with this on it, I'm not giving you credit. You might have them done, but if you do them with all the proportion, I cannot give you completion on writing the equation. All of these should have this on your paper, A equals PW. You plug in what those numbers are, and you solve that equation. I hope you're having a great day. I hope you're behaving, and I will look forward to seeing you in class tomorrow.